to tell you, it's so nice to be home. And I'm so happy to be with you. In fact, we don't have our house in Green Bay anymore, but so I vote in the town of Claybanks in southern Door County. And I got home this week for the first time since the first of the year. And it feels wonderful to be with you. I've been in and out of Madison doing traveling, and this has been an extraordinary time, as we all know, because you're all actively engaged in thinking and paying attention. It's been particularly painful for me. I served this state of Wisconsin in the role of Lieutenant Governor for 8 years, and I took it very seriously. It was a tremendous privilege to serve, but I remember when I took the first oath of office and Chief Justice Abramson swore me in, you could really feel the weight of responsibility settle in on your shoulders as well. And I took it seriously the whole time. So when I watch my beloved state and state government suffer this moment, it is excruciating, because what I feel like we're watching, first of all, is someone who has taken the advantage of solid majorities in both legislative houses and a conservative majority on the state Supreme Court, and decided that he doesn't need to govern, he's ruling. And there's a big difference. Governing is hard work, but governing is also essential in terms of keeping a people in a democracy together, focused on, if we may disagree about how to get there, we may have tremendous ideological differences in what we think about the role of government in a democracy, but if we are pure about our commitment to our state and our nation, we still have an idea of the common good. And you cannot keep that in place and work toward it unless you work together. I mean, there have been moments, I have to tell you, the deliberative process that is part of government sometimes is painfully long. And you just sort of say, oh, let's get to the point here. Can't you move around and understand this more quickly than that? But I've also seen when you were patient and allowed people respectfully to come together over something, I've seen really smart decision-making that will hold up for decades because we took time and were deliberative. So it's a tough time, and it's a tough time when I think about it because people don't really know where to turn. I mean, David is right. The first thing to turn to is the election on Tuesday and the election for justice on the Supreme Court. That is absolutely the only potential backstop we have to this ruling instead of governing. So as we try to decide what to do, that's the first thing. Get that done and make sure that we get enough votes that we can't lament that we didn't get out enough people for that. We simply can't afford that. But then when you think about both the budget repair bill, and by the way, I've been a bit incredulous that at the federal level, the Republicans are renewing with great vigor their assault on health care, which was passed and should be implemented, right? It's in the process of being implemented. But they don't give up. That was nothing compared to these Republicans who will not respect the decision of a judge who has issued an injunction on it. I mean, it's amazing. Does anyone have reading glasses close by? Do you, can I borrow them? I have to read you something, but the sense of arrogance and lawlessness and outside of the law, that we will rule as we choose, and the decision of a judge has no bearing on what we think, on what we do. So, is today the 31st? Yesterday, the Republican Party of Dane County issued a press release. Now, this is the other thing I have to say. is that, to me, politics is about the dignity of daily life. And all of these decisions and this sense of how a democracy works and the promise of equal opportunity and justice and all of that is to afford everyone the possibility of dignity in their daily life. There's no grace and little dignity at all in what is happening in our state capital under this administration. And the Republican Party, and I was shocked when I saw this. I had to print it out to believe it. The Republican Party of Dane County, this is what the headline of their press release is, apologizes to Judge Sumi. So they sent out a press release on the 29th criticizing her, and now they'd like to apologize for not understanding her point of view. Listen to this. Sure, Governor Walker's bill is unquestionably constitutional, increases workers' rights, and helps local government balance budgets without having to fire public workers. The Wisconsin State Legislature consulted with their nonpartisan parliamentarian to make sure that the passage of the bill followed the rules of the legislature. But this isn't about the law, is it? The Republican Party of Dane County recognizes that Judge Sumi is a leftist living in Dane County. Her friends are leftists living in Dane County. Her son is a left-wing activist in Dane County. She goes to cocktail parties held by leftists in Dane County. She shops at organic gourmet food shops. It goes on. I won't torture you with this. But
that's an apology?
Can you imagine? I am proud to be a Democrat, and I will and have called the chair of the Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin when I thought it was over the edge. And this is something we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But it is the values that we espouse. It is what drove David to leave his family and go to Illinois so that we had a deliberative democracy that respects the people and the citizens and their rights in this state. All of this is serious business. And to be so profoundly disrespectful of a sitting judge and totally ignore and act in the face of her injunction, to me, if these were Democrats doing this, I'd issue a statement. I want to hear from the Republicans who are embarrassed by this.
They are.
So there's chaos. Let me give her.
You guys speak for
So it's hard to know where to turn. I'll try not to go on too long because I'd like to have a conversation with you. But part of this ruling instead of governing is to have so many things in the air that are so important that we don't know where to turn our focus and what to do. So it started with completely going after all of the working people of the state, all of them, via the unions and stripping them of collective bargaining rights. And that was so unthinkable and so huge in a budget repair bill that we started to lose sight of other things that were happening. Before that happened, Governor Walker dissolved the Poet Laureate Commission before the budget repair bill and before the budget was introduced. It has a budget line of $2,000. I mean, that's nothing. In a $56 billion, $65 billion budget. But you know why? I said to somebody, who has time to burrow down into this and send letters to the members, citizens who didn't even get compensated for their travel, who generously gave to give the state a poet laureate? Who has time to do that when there's so many big issues? It's a rhetorical flourish that he uses. I am so serious about cutting the budget of the state of Wisconsin that we have examined everything. We discovered a Poet Laureate Commission. Who even knew how to pronounce it? It's gone. Well, so here's this baby. I mean, it doesn't even qualify as a speck of dust on the budget, but then we have the cuts to education. And the lack of real clarity, I'll try to be fair, about the impact of those cuts. And they would say, this is what it will do to this school district, and that school district's financial officers in the Capitol saying, oh, you're off by millions of dollars on this.